One of Africa's billionaire, Femi Otedola, has announced that he'll be investing $100 million in the Dangote refinery IPO once it is listed. Now, like the predictable reactions of retail traders, they will start selling different stocks to be able to also invest in the Dangote refinery IPO. Because we know retail traders are mostly moved by emotions than with facts. But before you sell, we'll be showing you 5 stocks we will not be selling. Yes, we. Welcome to Clockwise. My name is Providence. And like I said, today's conversation will be on 5 stocks we will not be selling. And the we there means I and my in-house stock analyst. Now, with a resounding virtual round of applause, welcome my analyst. Welcome, Mr. Kanem.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's a nice day. I don't know if I say it's a bad day or it's a nice day because we're actually expecting Dangote to list this his refinery by June. We're looking at June, at most July. But he actually over the weekend he said he said it will be listed in September, and that's not the most fascinating thing about it. The most fascinating conversation is the level of funds that are already ready for this listing. Now, before we go there, I'd like you to talk about the dates, the shift of date. Does it actually affect our initial start?
No, it doesn't. But I think it is a very strategic move to move it from June to September. And the reason is because, remember, the world's largest IPO is happening in June. SpaceX. Okay. SpaceX is looking to raise $1.5 trillion. Some reports say 1.75, so 1.78, even up to $2 trillion.
That's like a GDP of 3 African countries.
3 African countries? No, that's not 3 African countries. That's 3 African countries don't even make up to 1.
Okay, like 5 African countries.
You should say 5 to 10 top
African countries.
Top African countries, yes.
That the company is looking for.
Yeah, that the company is looking for. So in their S1 filings, they actually are looking for $1.5 trillion.
Trillion dollars,
yeah. And then, so if you, and like I told you, this is going to be one of the largest, it's not just one of the largest liquidity event in the history of the world, of the world's stock market. So you cannot afford to compete in that space. You cannot remember Dangote is trying to raise $5 billion at a $50 billion valuation. And that means, like I told you, and it's going to be dual listed both in the Nigerian Stock Exchange as well as the London Stock Exchange. That means you are also looking to attract foreign portfolio investments.
So it's a very wrong time.
It will be a very wrong time because everybody's attention will be focused on SpaceX.
Okay.
So it was a very good decision to move it to September.
What of he said that we have so much capital already. People are interested.
Yeah, already over $2 billion has been raised. Over $2 billion has been raised.
Will there be a space for retail traders?
Yeah, of course, there will be.
Because if a toddler is coming with $100 million.
No, there will be a space for retail traders. Remember, we are looking at raising $5 billion. And what we have so far raised is $2 billion.
Okay.
So there is still, beyond retailers, I mean, I want you to understand, can retailers actually even come up with $1 billion? Retail traders? No. I don't think that. So that's why you're going to, if you can raise within Nigeria, you can raise up to $2 billion. Then, let's say outside the country, you can raise another $2 billion. Then the retailers across board can also raise $1 billion. That hits the $5 billion mark.
Okay. Now, it's an established fact that most retail traders usually react to stories like this, to news like this. And if big investors are actually saying they're investing in a particular asset, retail investors see that conversation like a financial advice. They also want to invest in that asset. And we'll be seeing a lot of sell-offs.
Yes.
A lot of people want to sell different assets. They want to have liquidity to also invest in an IPO, in the Dangote IPO. Now, I want to speak to you as a trader and also as an analyst. If they are selling off, sell off means an opportunity for smarter traders, smarter investors. Now, though, the price of some other stocks will actually drop. And smarter traders or smarter investors will actually take a generational opportunity to buy most of those stocks that people are selling off. As an analyst, what are those 5 stocks you think you yourself will not sell off?
Yes. So, I mean, this is actually very relevant because we see Femi Todola sold 100, totally all his positions
Yes,
in
in
Geregu,
Geregu,
raised
yes.
100 million, which is looking to invest in the Dangote refinery. But I know a lot of people will do that. And fun fact, I'm actually looking at that opportunity.
Okay.
You know,
When they are selling off, you're buying.
yes, they are selling off, I will be buying. You know, because I know that these companies are very strong. So we are going to mention a few of them, about 5 of them. The first one I'm looking at would be, you should not sell GTCO. You should not sell it.
That's GT Bank.
Very strong balance sheet. Very strong. They have an unparalleled ability to make money in a high interest environment. When you talk about digital bank, among the tier 1 banks, it is number 1. When you talk about loan quality, very excellent. You will talk about in terms of management structure, the management discipline, it is up
So it's not
there.
a good time to sell them.
So you don't want to sell GT Bank, GTCO. I know people will still go ahead to sell. But so what does that mean for you? It means that while people are selling it, you should see that as a buying opportunity. You don't sell GTCO. It's been very strong.
Not even this year.
GTCO is, remember, it's not just in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, it's dual listed. So it is going to witness serious inflow. Dangote intends to pay in US dollars. You know what that means? It means that, and GTCO is one of the most, when it comes to FX, liquidity sits almost entirely on GTCO. Okay, so if you want, you should even be thinking of how to open an account and then ensure that your funds come in through GTCO so you can actually get it in US dollars. But the most important thing is you look at how strong the bank is. It's trading at 1.2 price to book now. And for me, it still has tremendous upside. When people tell me, even till today, GTCO has powered up. This time last year, GTCO was selling at $44. And now it has gone as high as 140 something dollars. And then people tell me
How much in Naira?
I meant to say 44, selling 44 Naira,
yes.
and now it's 444 Naira per share. Someone will tell me, it has done a 3x. And do you think there's still alpha? I say, yes, there's still alpha. GTCO, if you know how strong, most of that particular bank is very undervalued. At 1.2 price to book, it is still very undervalued compared to the potential it has, compared to the governance structure, the loan quality, and all of that. So you don't want to sell GTCO. I think GTCO is something you should sit on. In fact, if anything, you should think of buying more of GTCO when it suffers that dislocation.
Okay. The second one?
The second one is Zenith Bank. The best run tier 1, arguably the best tier 1 bank in Nigeria. Zenith Bank has a very best run tier 1 bank in terms of balance sheet discipline. It has very, very strong earnings power, especially in high interest environment. So Zenith Bank is going to be will remain very strong. It's trading at almost 1.0 price to book.
Okay. Very
strong fundamentals. Zenith Bank has, in terms of their loan quality, is excellent. So you don't want to compare with those strong stories, strong names, strong fundamentals, You don't want to sell them. Rather, you should be looking to buying into those. So those two, when it talks about the banking, financials. If I were to give an honorable mention on financial, I would mention a name that people would disagree with me, but I want you to understand something, and that would be UBA. UBA for me is a continental play. It exists in over 20 countries. When investors come to Nigeria, to them they are going to an emerging market. To them, they are going to an African market. They want to be able to do what? Move funds around. it is very important. Investors value the ability to move liquidity around so much, even more than the returns you think they are getting, because they want to be able to get out as or move funds and take advantage of any opportunity that shows up. So UBA sits in that space. Having a Pan-African presence means investors can move funds around. So I put it as an honorable mention because
people will disagree because of where they are now.
Because of the stock price and the fact that they did not pay dividends.
Yes.
That's the thing. Like they say, as an investor, you want to invest when the blood is in the street, including your own blood. That is what they say. I know the stock price, the price has not done well. But let me tell you, we know if you watch our previous video, you know why UBA has not done well, why they have not paid. But I want to let you know that you want to get in when there's trouble in the streets, when the missile is in the air. So that is an honorable mention. So the two we are mentioning here include JIT Eco and Zenith Bank.
Okay.
Then next, of course, telecoms. You don't want to sell MTN. MTN is still a very strong dominant player. Let me tell you, whatever you think is the return you are making in Dangote refinery, you look to make it Dangote refinery. Telecoms will do like 10 times. Remember, the fintech is still spreading very fast. I don't remember that last. I've actually I operated for more than close to a month without touching cash. Why is that the case?
Going to a bank. You can,
without touching cash, without going to a bank.
You can even stay for a year without
You can literally stay, without, you can stay for months without touching cash because of fintech. And it is growing, it is expanding. The Nigerians, the population of Nigerians that are still outside the fintech space is very large. Very large. That the upside for telcos is very high. So you want to look at the telecoms, the fintech opportunity. You want to look at the fact that AI is coming in and people are looking for, the demand for data is increasing. We saw the other time we did a review of the numbers MTN did. Insane numbers in terms of customer growth.
Are you sure they're not going to pull back?
When you say pull back, if you ask me, I think MTN is still going to power up. Let me tell you why. Remember, MTN is sitting at a time when most of the fugas are not paying dividends. And MTN has already declared a 15 naira in interim, not final, interim dividends. So guess where people will think of when they want to, because most Nigerian investors, like I told you, are still driven by investment. But you have to understand that you have two themes. Either you chase dividend or you chase return on equity. For me, I chase both, really. So, but unfortunately, most Nigerians chase dividend. That's why you see some of the banks that are not paying dividends, their stock price is down. Their stock prices are down. So you don't want to sell MTN to buy Dangote. Rather, you want to sit and wait for the people that don't understand the fundamentals of MTN to sell MTN and you buy Dangote. If you understand where Airtel Africa is, you understand that MTN is even a more dominant player, but it's selling cheaper than Airtel. So what does that tell you? In terms of price to earnings ratio, it tells you that there is a lot of upside to MTN.
But they're not undervalued.
I said relatively.
Okay.
You are looking at a dominant player in Nigeria and comparing to other players in the same industry. So you don't want to sell MTN. You don't want to sell Dangote Cement. Yes, I know it's Dangote, but you don't want to sell Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement has performed very well and is still going to perform. And the reason is because there's a lot of build-out going on. There's a lot of infrastructure expansion going on. And Dangote, a couple of weeks ago, we saw that Dangote, they signed a very gigantic deal with the Ethiopian government. That it's expanding across Africa. Is that the name? Is that the story that you want to step out of? No, you don't want to do that. You want to really look out for when people are going to sell, because people are going to sell out of those positions. I can tell you that. So you want to look to buy into that. I remember when I talked about the first time we mentioned Dangote on this studio, the price action was not good enough, but we said Dangote Cement was going to be a force. And it did have a 52%. It did 52%. That should tell you that it is a very strong play. And remember, investors always want to price in some fundamentals ahead of time. So Dangote is going to be a very strong name that you don't want to really ignore. Okay. Of course, in the same industry, you want to look at Boa Cement.
Okay.
Boa Cement. Boa Cement is also very strong. But the thing about Boa Cement is that it has what we call pricing power, and it can afford to pass inflation down to customers.
And can also accommodate a shock.
So yeah, that's what I mean. So in terms of now, we have some level of FX stability. We saw the CBN, the MPC left rates still at the left rates unchanged. So even though it's still elevated, but it has a way of moderating because they expect a lot of inflation to come from the disturbance we have in the Middle East. So that means we are most likely going to have inflation properly anchored. And then you also going to have rates. The fact that they did not raise rates means that the bond market, because one of the things that actually disturbs the equity market is when the bond market becomes so attractive.
Yeah.
Yes, I think the last auction was still around 17%. So when the market is not as attractive, very attractive, what you have is that equity still do well. So I think with the last MPC decision, equity will still do well. So things like Dangote is not what you want to sell out of. Okay. Then the last one, I think we've mentioned GTCO, we've mentioned Zenith, we've mentioned MTN, we've mentioned Dangote. Okay, we mentioned Boa. So those are 5.
You wanted to see another one?
I wanted to give another honorable mention. Nestle, I see that face. Nestle has not performed well for you. But let me tell you, as an investor, I had a call this morning and I told somebody that I was looking at taking a position in a particular company and I was looking at leaving it for 15, 20 years. The guy looked at me, said 15, 20 years. How do you guys get this mind?
You're an investor.
You see, if you look 10 years ago, where was NVIDIA? You want to get in before the action. NVIDIA was, when I got into NVIDIA was an object of ridicule. NVIDIA was only producing GPUs for Bitcoin mining and gaming. AI was not a play at the time. So you want to get in ahead of the action. Unfortunately, many people wait until the price action has gone through the roof before they allocate, and then they eventually buy at the top. And then, not as if the price has stopped in terms of the upside has capped. No. But just a pullback as people take profits, they say, this thing was actually a scam. Then they sell off. Buy high, and sell low. And then by the time they sell low, guess what happens? The investors pile back into the asset and then it pumps again. They say, so this thing was not a scam after all. They go back in. So the market, that's how the market moves. So you don't want to look at, Nestle has not performed well because Nestle is a defensive play. Most of the times during bull markets, defensive plays are not usually attractive. But guess what? You need them in your portfolio because they actually ensure that you don't go down so much. Number one, it actually helps you to diversify your risk profile. It also helps you to ensure that your portfolio doesn't really dip. If something happens now, let's say, because I believe we have not resolved the case, the Strait of Hormuz is still essentially locked. So we have not seen the outcome of what the oil shock. So let's say if inflation continues to tick up, the CBN would definitely come in to raise rates. When they raise rates, the bond market, the bonds become more attractive. Guess what? Investors would sell off the equity market. No matter how much I sit down here to assure you that everything will be, it's just right. That's how it's been working over the years and it's continued to work. Okay. Once the bond market is more attractive, investors will would sell off because that's a guaranteed return on investment with almost zero risk because it's coming from the government. The government will always pay. So sell off their equity and then we'll buy. So you need an asset that's defensive, meaning that even if you're in a recession, if you're in a serious market sell-off on the equity side, then you are sure that
no matter what you're selling, don't sell the defensive.
So you want to have, that's why I've mentioned one defensive, I did not put it among the 5 names because we are in a bull market. But you might also want to consider that. So we've talked about GTCO, we've talked about Zenith Bank, we've talked about MTN, we've talked about Dangote Cement, we've talked about Boa Cement. Then some of the honorable mentions was UBA and Nestle.
All right, now before we go, I'd like a final question. Now, I want you to, most people are actually looking at what you're saying and they're like, are you sure what you're saying is it right? Do you understand me? Yeah. So I want you to actually expatiate on why you've actually settled down for these names, that you're not selling these names.
Okay. So why am I not selling these names? Financials. The first 2 are financials. They are tier 1 banks and they have excellent balance sheet.
Okay.
In fact, they have what we call fortress balance sheet. They have assets. So they are going to do a lot of loans. Remember, some of the people that will invest, even in this Dangote, some people that will invest will actually take loans to borrow, to invest. And to some extent, you might think it's a bit risky. But I mean, this bank, that's why I said Zenith Bank is the most disciplined from balance sheet perspective, meaning that they would have weighed the risk, understood the collateral structure for them to give this loan. So, I mean, so banks are going to make a ton of money. Banks are going to make so much from this IPO. Because think about it, it's going to push the Nigerian exchange group so high. 50 billion is coming into a market that is just worth over just $117 billion. And 50 billion is coming in. You can't, your guess is as good as mine that will explode the NGX. So banks are stand to. So banks, I mentioned the top 2 banks. And those are the top 2 banks that have done the best performance this year. In fact, since last year.
And they are also better positioned.
And they are very better positioned to be able to capture value in this IPO. That's number 1. Number 3, I moved into telecoms. You cannot ignore telecoms in this regard. Can't ignore telecoms. Telecoms, everything drives telecommunication. Telecommunication drives everything in the country. And you have a generation of Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, that are literally, some of them spend more time on their phones than time with other people. So then you have to capture that market. Then the next, of course, that's when
you need to sell telecom.
So you can't sell telecoms. So it's majorly, I will not even sell my holdings in MTN or Airtel Africa. I'm not doing that. It's just a reality. Then you go to the likes of the industrials, Dangote Cement. You can't sell Dangote Cement. It's expanding in other Africa.
To buy Dangote refinery.
You cannot sell. For me, I'm not selling because I'm seeing they are expanding into more African countries.
Which means more business.
Which means more business.
More money.
Which means more money.
More
greater margins and more money for investors. Yeah. Then, of course, Boa Cement, pricing power, ability to pass on price, inflation to consumers, rock solid balance sheet, or fortress balance sheet, and all of that. That's why industrial. So those 2, for industrials, I have those 2. So if you look at it, I'm particularly looking at of course, well, the oil and gas sector is also there. I didn't go into that. We look at the likes of Seplat and Aradel. But I mean, these numbers, these guys have gone very high. So you might want to still look, maybe take some profit from there. And then like I told you, I had already taken some profits on those 2 names.
Yeah, and reinvest it
to rotate. Even though Seplat doesn't seem to be coming down, it's been almost like someone told me it's stuck at 11,400 and something. But the fact is, I'm still going to take some profits, not because I don't believe that Seplat will benefit from the Dangote listing, but because I want to rotate some gains into Dangote.
It's a management.
You need to have portfolio management strategy, and you need to be able to start mopping up some liquidity, so you have some dry powder to deploy even in the Dangote refinery. Okay. I'm not saying I'm not going to buy Dangote, but I'm just saying I'm not going to sell these names. And that's number 1. Number 2, I'm going to take advantage of the dislocation that I expect from people selling these names to.
I think that's a fine place to leave it. You've given us your reasons why you're not selling these particular stocks. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
We'll still keep our eye on the ball. Now, before we go, there are 2 information I'd like to pass down. First, whenever you hear a hype or whenever they are hyping a particular asset, just know that you're late. you're late to the party. Once you hear a hype, you're late to the party. But if you want to enter the market at the right time, we have a link on in our comment section where you can actually have a close conversation with us, and we'll tell you the right time. You'll be in the market at the right time, even before the hype. But if you want to learn how to make your own or conduct your own personal research and do your own personal investments, there's also a link on the comment section where you can actually have a close interaction with us, and we can guide you on every step on how we do our own research for you to also conduct your own research. And on that note, we come to the end of today's episode of Clockwise. Now, do not forget to like, subscribe, and also put on your notification bell on this channel because of the amazing content. And also do not forget that the elite of the 21st century are not those who do not go to school or those who will not go to school, but are those who have refused to evolve as their environment is evolving. My name is Providence. I'll see you again.